Branded composite model technology makes you the star. It can be dangerous playing asset manager yourself, and it can be equally dangerous building each client portfolio separately. But custom composite models allow you to gather assets and manage relationships better than ever before. Hey, I'm excited to share some time with you today to go in on a deep dive, or a deeper dive anyway, in terms of some technology we talked about on some previous rare discussions, whereas we're looking at how you can streamline your practice, how you can develop front stage opportunity with clients and investors, but equally, if not more importantly, manage the backstage in a way that is going to help elevate the value of your practice. And specifically, we're going to talk about the world of AUM today and the fact that all assets under management, all AUM revenue, is not considered equal. So, there's a big difference between non-recurring revenue and recurring revenue when it comes to the valuation of your practice. But when we're in the world of recurring revenue, which basically means assets under management for the most part, once we're in that world, not all of it is created equally as well. So for example, the reason I say it's not always just AUM, it's recurring revenue, is because you might have 12B1 fees. Well, that's recurring revenue, even though it's not assets under management, but that's still not valued as high as, say, third-party asset management. And then a lot of advisors are doing their own rep as PM. I am the portfolio manager, and I individually am going to decide what's owned in the client's portfolio, and I'm making those trades, those buying decisions and selling decisions. I'm acting as their asset manager. When I do that, that's separate again. So that's not valued quite as high as is traditional third-party asset management. And the reason is because if you're an outside investor and you want to buy a financial practice, remember, you're thinking as an investor. You're not thinking as a sole proprietor. You even if you're buying sole proprietorships, you don't want to think like a sole proprietor as you're the buyer, as you're the investor, because you do not want to buy people's jobs. You want to buy their businesses. And if all I can buy is someone's job, then I'm going to pass on that. I'm going to move to the next business that I can purchase. I don't want to buy jobs. And that's the challenge you get into if you're doing rep as PM, because now somebody has to climb inside of Mike's brain and figure out why and how was I making those various decisions and trading on those, and how could I duplicate that? Do I really want to try to figure out a way to climb inside of Mike's head, figure all this out, duplicate it so that I now can act in his absence once I've bought him out? And a lot of investors want nothing to do with that concept. On the other hand, what's very appealing to them is if you have third-party asset management, now they've got something that's scalable, because I can manage those asset managers. I can manage which models we're going to utilize from them, but that day-to-day component, I don't have to climb inside their head to figure it out. I just have to know, what is the concept they're implementing? Do I agree with it? Does it fit well in my portfolio? And do I want to use it with my clientele? But now I've got opportunity for scale. And then, all that being said, what oftentimes still happens is some asset gatherers, some financial advisors who are primarily asset gatherers, will gather the assets, but then over here they find one little area they really like or they're good at, and they do want to manage those assets, but not necessarily the rest. And there's a way to handle that from a technology standpoint as well. So we have what's called USA Financial Exchange. And at least for us, I can't speak to the rest of the world, but I can tell you how we're handling that technology for you. So for us on our platform, if you're using Exchange, which is a TAMP, a turnkey asset management program, we're bringing in all of these other institutional asset managers. The difference being between us and a lot of the other TAMPs out there is we don't just throw them all against the wall. We don't have countless numbers of them with just like this overwhelming amount that you have to deal with and then decide which do you want to use or how do you want to utilize them. Instead, what we do is we vet them, we keep the number at a reasonable level, and we make sure that they all play well in the sandbox together so that you can go in as the relationship manager, as the financial advisor, and you can know that, hey, I can pull some models from here, some models from here, and some models from here, and they're all going to play well in the sandbox together. So that's kind of the goal for how we assemble it. But what's also really cool is it allows you to then build your own private customized composite models. And this is what I've been asked to kind of get back into on this conversation. So with this concept, what you can do is you can determine, let's say, 5 different models going from aggressive to moderate or to conservative. So I've got aggressive, moderate, moderately conservative, conservative. And in doing that, I can now build portfolios that I will duplicate for my clients based upon where they fall on this risk spectrum. And I can manage that accordingly. So I can have kind of like, whether you want to make it an official investment committee or not, I can have kind of an investment committee approach where I will look at my 5 composite models, my 5 overall portfolios that I have built using different asset managers and all the different models they provide, put them together like pieces of a puzzle so that it fits my style as a financial advisor and what I think makes compelling story and compelling benefit for the consumer. And then I can identify quarterly, annually, whatever the case might be, how is that performing? Do I ever want to trade out a model, trade out an asset manager, and so on? Now, the beauty of this is what you get paid for. This is at least one of the things that you get paid for as a financial advisor, is to monitor this on behalf of your investors. Now, let's contrast that to if I'm the rep as PM, if I'm the portfolio manager myself, I'm not using other asset managers and their models. I think I'm smarter than all of them, and I'm going to do it all on my own. I'm going to build my own models, and sometimes that's okay. So take that however you like. There's a reason to do that as well, and I'll spend a moment on that if you'd like. But let's say that I'm doing all this myself, and now things aren't going well. Whether it's because there's a crisis or a pandemic or just a bear market or maybe even in a bull market, but I'm not doing well, whatever the case might be, if that's not going well, the only thing that can be removed from that equation to correct it is me. So I've forced my clients into a corner where if they're not comfortable with how things are going in the portfolio, they physically have to leave my practice to solve the problem. That's a really bad situation for everybody, and you lose clients over it. I would argue that you are much better off if you're managing the portfolios from other asset managers, other models, and then you can sit down with a client and say, you know what, we're having some issues here where I'm not comfortable with how this model is performing under a certain set of circumstances. I'm recommending that we replace A with B, and we will make that change on your behalf. And so on and so forth. And now what's happening is they're seeing you doing what they want you to do. And even if things weren't going well, they're seeing you in action to solve the problem, and they want to stay. So it's a much more protected relationship when you operate in this sense rather than rep as PM. Now, sometimes a lot of people like to do a little bit of both. And I think that holds a little more water as well, where you have your area of expertise. Maybe there's something you really are pretty good at doing this and you want to do rep as PM, but stay inside of your guardrails. Stay inside of your expertise, your area that you have some giftedness. And now let's bring in the other asset managers and the other models and so on for the rest of the portfolio. And then if anything does ever go wrong over here, you can kind of throw yourself under the bus a little bit and just say, you know what? Things haven't been going quite well. They're not really fitting with the way we've been managing the money for you. Let me bring in one of these other asset managers to take a piece of this. So even if it's you still have an escape hatch now with this. So that's a big part of making sure that you're on a platform that allows you to do these things. And if you are doing rep as PM, if you are doing your own asset management, we have built Exchange with the technology that we will literally give you the same tools, the same horsepower that a third-party asset manager, an institutional asset manager would use to manage the money. We can turn that over to you so that you can now manage those models with the same kind of horsepower that they are, side by side on the same platform. So now you don't have to do all this individually, client by client. Now you can do it model by model and then put those models inside of a bigger composite if you want to. And this allows you to now brand as well, because you can name your composite models. You can brand them to your practice. You can brand them to your processes, to the formula that you have. If you've worked with the protocol group, you understand that the client onboarding process exists, and we have a formula for that, and how we walk through the life of a relationship with an investor. We have truly a formula for that we customize with you, build it, brand it, market it, create competitive and professional contrast between you and every other advisor in your area. And now you can take the portfolios, the models, and the composite models, and you can brand those to your practice that way as well. So creates some really cool synergies that you simply can't get anywhere else. And it's a matter of how do you streamline your back office. So now again, let's go back to if you're now building your practice towards the ultimate valuation. And I would argue you should be doing this for your entire career. It doesn't matter how far away it is that you think you might want to sell or exit or transition out of your practice. You should still be running it today as a business and as an asset that you are building. And that will always be in the best interest of the client as well. And so now as you're doing that, as you're going through this process and you're using the tools and the systems, the technology that we just talked about here, now an outside investor can look at that and say, oh, wow, that's really cool. I'm getting both sides of the coin. I'm getting the branding. I'm getting the personal stuff that doesn't feel like I can get anywhere else. But I also had the scalability and the ability to leverage all the other asset managers, all the other models. I don't have to climb inside Mike's brain. I don't have to buy Mike's job. I can simply buy Mike's business. And then if I want to bring on sub-producers, I have the tools and the systems at the top line that they can plug into and they can pull those down. Oh, I have an aggressive investor. Here's what happens. Oh, I have a moderately conservative investor. Here's what happens. And then I know all these things are getting managed and growing over time and being reviewed over time on a regular basis, and I've got scale on my side. The same could be argued in terms of administration inside of your practice. Your staff now knows how to dial in a customer because you can identify what models they should be in, what composites they should be in. Maybe it's on a risk scale, or you can have composites for any reason. It doesn't have to be aggressive to conservative. That was just my example. But you can have, a core, and then you can have your orbiting around that with your satellites. There's a lot of different ways you can build your composites. But it allows you to operate in a really large universe with high customization. And now that is easy for me to say, right? Now, what I was trying to say is now I have the ability to personalize this at the relationship level with my customer, but I'm also enhancing scale for the long-term value of my practice. And as you know, clients will always ask you, what happens to me if something happens to you first? And this starts to help solve that problem as well. And if you want to solve it further, check out some of the other rare discussions where we've talked about the need to have an emergency contingency plan and what those things should look like. There's conversation about that out there as well. But this technology will help you run your day-to-day practice better. It will help you scale your business for potential sale or growth or adding on of sub-advisors in the future. And at the same time, it will allow you to have a more personal relationship with the customer because you can name and customize these things and keep focused on the asset gathering side, keep focused on the relationship side. So it's pretty cool how it all comes together. And again, this happens to be part of USA Financial Exchange. So if this has been new to you, if you're not working with us already and you would like to be, obviously reach out to USA Financial. For those of you who already have access to this, which I know is a lot of you, my wish, I guess, for you would be think about this a little differently. A lot of you are tapped into exchange, but you're not getting the full value of the horsepower. You're not branding the composites to your practice. You're not, if you are managing money yourself, which again, I would argue there's probably better ways to do it, but we can all be friends about it. But if you are doing that, naming the thing appropriately and then sitting down with us, let us help you essentially be your investment committee. And we can visit a couple times a year to make sure you have the right models inside of your composites for the right reasons. And this will help in just countless different ways in running your practice. So if this is good stuff, if you like hearing about these things, if you like learning about these things, that's what the Rare Advisor is all about, recurring and repeatable events. And this is the epitome of creating systems and processes in your business so you can take advantage of recurring and repeatable events, because that's where I get scale and that's where I get leverage. So please subscribe, please like, and I'll be back and talking with you again soon. Thank you.